Welcome back to Love of One Healing and Transformation. In today's episode, we explore the truth about 5D, multidimensionality, trauma, and emotional sovereignty with the incredible Mariko Bangerter. Together, we dive deep into what it really means to be multidimensional, why bypassing emotional healing can block our gifts, and how true 5D embodiment begins in the nervous system, not the mind. This is a grounded, heart-centered look at shadow work, soul remembrance, and what it takes to embody your higher self in this lifetime. Welcome back to Love of One podcast. Today I'm talking with a new friend, but a good friend, soulmate, seems like, Mariko Bangerter. And she's in the UK here.
I'm actually in the southwest of France.
Today we're going to talk about multidimensionality, the 5D, some misconceptions, kind of set the record straight, and dive into those topics and how we can get there on our own, some of the tools that we have, and specifically, too, what Mariko offers to get you and help you to ascension on your own the right way. Mariko, can you just explain a little bit for our audience what it is you offer and just an introduction so people understand what you do, what you offer, how long you were doing it,
Sure.
and so forth.
Yeah, so I do a few different things. The things that I offer is regression therapy. So you've had a few regression therapists on the podcast. So that includes, current life regression, past life regression, but also I offer between lives spiritual regression. So what that does is it's slightly different from the regression therapy. With regression therapy, I'm more focused on helping people to identify the source of their issue. And we go wherever that leads us, whether that's a current life block or a past life block. With between lives regression, I lead them back to the point between the death of their last past life and their current incarnation, where they're in the between lives place, though it's a non-physical place, and where people really get to understand who they are as a soul, who their soul group is, what their purpose is in this current incarnation. So it's quite a beautiful, profound experience. I also practice emotional freedom techniques, which in my practice, I use a lot to help people rewire their limiting beliefs and thoughts. And also I help people clear and release, trauma that's stuck in their field, in their body, in their nervous system. I'm also an AVT practitioner, which stands for Advanced Vibrational Techniques, which is a powerful form of remote energy work. And with that, I work with the higher self of the client. So I channel guidance from the higher self and of the client. And yeah, the insights there are usually very practical and also profound. Those are kind of the main ways that I work. But within my practice, I mix and match everything depending on, where the person is at and what they need. And essentially, I guess in short, I endeavor to help people understand and integrate their shadow side so that they can embody their higher self and be more aligned with that. So I guess this is going to segue into, what we mean by multidimensionality, but I think imperative to understand are both of these sort of polar or polarities within us, within our multidimensional self. So really, our shadow and what we have repressed or suppressed actively, and the incredible level of the higher self wisdom that we can also access and align with and use as our North Star when we're tuned in.
That's amazing. So you offer a few things. It's really your container so that whoever comes to you, I'm a huge, huge believer that there's not one size that fits all in this world. Specifically, when we move through our healing, our trauma, our emotions, getting through, and everyone's on their own level too of awakening.
Yes.
So it's important sometimes for healers or practitioners to have multiple things in their container. Just get to that level for that person. So I love that.
Yeah, and I found that, different people attract different kinds of people. And I seen many of the people that I work with seem to come from a more traditional therapeutic experience. So they've tried talk therapy, sometimes for years, and yet they're not really getting anywhere. They're stuck. And that's usually when we meet each other. And then it's so humbling and also just so beautiful for me to allow them different ways to truly actually heal from the trauma that they've experienced. So I work a lot with traumatized people, and my own personal experience is in trauma. So I'm very comfortable in the murky terrains and the deep, depths of shadow and trauma and all of that. I guess, I read those people and they come to me. But, all this to say that I think it's so important for people to know there are other ways of working and through the shadow and all that's so dark and daunting, and there are ways that requires it to be less daunting of a task.
For sure. Yeah. Well, let's dive into the multidimensionality aspect because you kind of already hit the head on that. Also, when we go through the healing process ourselves, it's like the wounded healer becomes the healer, but you have to go through that experience yourself to understand, relate, know where to go, how to hold space appropriately. Because it's like the like-minded come to the like-minded because they're looking support of resonation.
Totally. A therapist is only able to help someone to the depths at which they've explored themselves, right?
Of course. Oh, that's perfect how you put
Yeah,
that.
so it's absolutely essential. So I'm continuing on my healing journey ad infinitum.
That's so
And
it never stops. It doesn't
yeah,
stop.
it never stops.
Talking about that too, when you're talking about the trauma and that there's layers, and because you take people into the in between and past lives, I think it's important to touch base that the trauma, because this goes to how multidimensional we are, the trauma isn't always just this lifetime. It's several lifetimes compacted on, compacted on, compacted on. You brought in, it could be ancestral coming through the emotional DNA that is transferred from one ancestor to another to yourself in the womb. You're taking on these blueprints of these essence of people that you've come in contact with throughout your entire soul's lifetime, not just this incarnate.
Totally. I'm just so grateful to be existing in this time and place where I can practice this and we can talk about this openly, because until this point, it's like there was such a limitation to what people could heal. In my training, we understood that whilst after the death point of any incarnation, we have to have our energy field cleared to be able to enter into the in-between, because the frequency is so different. So all of the trauma forms, I guess, what you could call emotional baggage. It's heavy, it's dense, it's density. And that needs to be shed for us to even be able to enter into the in-between, into the spirit realms.
Light.
Yeah, into the light.
It's light. Right. We have to get light.
Exactly. Yeah. However, when we come in to incarnate once more, the soul chooses what percentage of trauma we incarnate with in order to have some sort of, I guess, blueprint that would lead us back to understand who we are. You're born into this life with like an abandonment wound. At some point, that pattern will bring you to a point where you understand, okay, I need to understand what this is. And this leads you to your own healing journey. And ultimately, that's what the soul wants to heal. And the healing has to take place through self-inquiry and self-exploration and self-understanding. It's that understanding of who you are through the shadow that makes you ascend, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes, correct. It's also true that we pick everything. So we don't just, as a soul, before we incarnate, we don't just pick one or two things. We pick a multitude of things that we come in to clear. The whole purpose of this school is really to come back to remembering who we are. It's a remembrance game. We remember through emotions. It's an emotional remembrance game. That's exactly what it is. And when we start doing the work, going into the work, not this superficial, I'm just going to go do yoga, eat clean, and practice and wear ankhs around my neck and not know what it's for and pretend to life and put a smile on my face, like you were saying earlier before we started. It's not that. It's much more than that. It's not running away from a darkness of which you don't want to see. You have to see it
It's
because that
uncomfortable.
helps.
And it's sitting with that discomfort. That's what it is. That's the key. It's sitting with that discomfort and embracing it and understanding we're more than that.
Yeah, because we are all more
Yeah.
than that. And so let's talk about how do we know we're more than that?
Yeah.
If we just think back to our dream state, right? Our dreams, they are not just dreams. They are messages and they are cleansing. Sometimes they're cleansing emotions and traumas while we sleep that we're ready for to make room. They're premonitions, they're travel.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many things, and we can start there to understand how we are more than what you see.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know,
Things it's, spotting the patterns tells you a lot, right? What keeps recurring, whether it's in the dreams
yes,
or, whatever, but, what are the patterns?
the
The
people,
people, the
yeah,
lessons, well,
the
growth,
people that keep coming into
right.
our life. Yeah, the emotions we keep experiencing, the feelings, our emotions that we keep experiencing, meaning, why am I always so angry? I'm always so angry. Everything triggers
Exactly.
me. This triggers me. That triggers me. Going into the depths of the why, right?
Exactly.
To get to the how of to fix and move
Yeah, and a
forward.
few key questions that people can ask themselves in those moments, because you hit the nail on the head. It's really asking why. It's that self-inquiry, right? And um it's staying curious about oneself and just being curious without judgment. So, for example, if you feel triggered, so off kilter, off balance, emotionally triggered, really asking yourself, why do I feel this way? What is it about that situation that caused me to react in this way? And when was the last time I reacted in the same way? When was the last time I felt the same thing? And when was the worst time I felt this? And when was the earliest time I felt this? And, this is kind of like a key base of regression therapy, but it's tracing that pattern back to the source. And this already tells you so much, right? Because when you look at when was the first time I felt this, and you might have just a little image of, I don't know, a childhood memory come up that just carries that same frequency of feeling, of uncomfortable feeling. And then that leads you to an avenue of healing. So, it will usually include some kind of integration that needs to happen with that wounded child part of you. But yeah, that
Yeah,
self-inquiry is the fundamental piece of it. Yeah.
I agree. And sometimes we don't find that through talk therapy. Sometimes we have to go deeper than that. I would almost say that most of the times we have to go deeper because to me sometimes talk therapy is surface level. And I've been through talk therapy ever since I was younger, my entire life up until probably about 4 years
Uh-huh.
ago. I said, you know what? I found other ways, and I'm finding that I can go deeper and I can understand more of my trauma, more of my abandonment issues, more of this narcissistic abuse in my
Right.
life, more. And then things started to clear.
Mhm.
My dis-ease and my discomfort started to move away. And that's what we need to get to too, because we're also talking about understanding that when we understand that we are multidimensional and that we control our outcome and we control our reality, we can also control our health
Yeah,
as well.
100%. There's two, yeah, there's a couple of things I want to add to what you said, which is, what you said is so important. I think one of the things which I realized early on, which is why I decided to train in regression therapy and hypnotherapy, is because in talk therapy, often you're only engaging the conscious mind. And that's why it's limited.
Yes.
What you said was surface level. And the key to unlocking our transformation and our changes in everything, in our responses, in our behavior, in our thoughts, and our beliefs, is at a subconscious level. And also, our subconscious is the storehouse for all of our memory, right? From any incarnation. So unless that's accessed, I don't believe it's possible to gain true, profound transformation. And so with regression therapy and of course, with plant medicines and such, that's why they a powerful impact in even a single session, because you're going deeper, you're accessing and working with the subconscious, right? You said about understanding how we can heal disease. Yes, I think everything that the body manifests on a physical level is like a message from the soul. And, it's so fascinating when you look at, like, metaphysical anatomy, or they call it German New Medicine or Meta Health, which is a beautiful form of alternative medicine that was developed by clinicians in Germany who noticed thousands and thousands of cases of their patients where, when they had a specific kind of emotional wound, it would manifest as a specific kind of physical disease in a specific location in the body. And so everything is linked,
100%. Everything. That's why we have to really go inward. We can't run from the discomfort. And the only way that we're going to clear it is to live joy and peace and happiness, is to go within.
Yeah.
Go deep. You have to go deep. You can't just superficial face on and pretend everything's okay. We have to go deeper than that, and it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna be
that's the
okay.
thing. I think people are terrified of that. Run their lives, they run away from their feelings their whole lives. But I think what I really want to say to that, I mean, I can talk about my own experience with this. When I was 29, I had spent many years sort of hiding from my own insecurities and shadow side through back-to-back relationships, right? and seeking validation from, the romantic relationships I was in. And it was only when that pattern of unhealthy relationships got worse and worse and worse, till it was like shaking me awake, where I got into an abusive relationship, that I completely broke down on all levels, and I couldn't function. I had to quit my work. I couldn't function. I basically ended up with PTSD from the abuse. And it was as a result of that, I was, it was all destined, I guess, but I was, the synchronicity was, or it wasn't even a synchronicity. It was more like, I allowed then for this 4-month space where, well, I couldn't work anyway. I was healing. And I ended up under the care of a very good friend of mine who I owe so much to. So I stayed with my friend, who didn't expect anything of me, didn't expect me to smile or talk or nothing at all, just totally held space for me to sit in my misery and pain and anguish. And it was, the anguish was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was at his place across the other side of the world, where I didn't know anyone and I had no distractions. And I was forced to sit with the discomfort because there was nothing to distract me or take me away from it. And my friend was working, Monday to Friday. So I was alone with the pain, and that's it. and it was really when I stopped resisting the pain that things opened up. It was really sort of a spiritual awakening kind of moment, but what it was this meeting myself for the first time ever and understanding I'm more than all of this. I'm more than the patterns. I'm more than the pain. I'm more than who I thought I was. I'm more than, who I appeared to be. And so, I want to say that as terrifying as it can feel to the ego, actually, you are going to be okay. And it is finite. There's only so much emotion you can feel, in one time. There is an easing, if you stop suppressing it, an emotion will end because it's a messenger. It comes, it needs to be felt fully, and then it will go. It will be released. And there is an endpoint to that pain.
Thank you for sharing. That's a beautiful story. And it is true. And I think just like our inner child always wanted to be seen and heard, because mine never was, but I had to do that. But your pain also wants to be seen and heard. And that's it. And some through my experience too, because it's been quite the quite the travel through this existence. But sometimes, depending on the trauma, sometimes it takes a day or two to move through it once you see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
So it depends on how deep it is, what it goes through, and when you move through. Everyone talks about this onion, and it's a good analogy because the onion has so many layers, and sometimes you pull back a big chunk, and sometimes you pull back that little skin, that little membrane, But each time you're pulling something away, you get closer to the core of you.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And when you get closer to the core of you, then you start to see yourself in a different
Yeah.
way, and your life is easier and it's more beautiful. And the people that you really want in your life start
Yes. Yeah.
connecting with you
People,
because it's not
communities, all of it.
that
Yeah, exactly. And and also what I find interesting, and I wonder, if you can resonate with this, but I find the more you clear that, and the more you sit with that shadow and you integrate it and you heal, the more your spiritual and psychic gifts come online.
Yes, I would love to go that next. I was gonna. We're reading our minds already. See, we're already telepathic, everybody.
Well, the shadow work. No.
It's not hard. Let's dive into that. Of course, when you start opening up and seeing who you are, you're getting rid of the old to bring in something new that's lighter
Yes.
and more joyful.
And it's exactly what you said before with after the death point of an incarnation and needing to shed the density to get to the light. It's exactly the same thing. So it's a shedding. It's a shedding and a lightening of your frequency, of your density. So it's like it's not
Yeah.
it's not that the gifts suddenly appear. They were always there, but they were obscured by the dense frequency.
They were
They were,
locked.
by the unresolved trauma. It's as simple as that. It's unresolved trauma.
And the key is you're the medicine.
Yes.
You are your own medicine is the key to unlock those
Yes.
gifts that you brought.
Exactly.
Or ability.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I don't feel that that's talked about enough. The correlation with that.
It's not. That's when you start to see who you really are. When you pull back those layers,
Yeah.
right? Then you see yourself at the core. And who am I at the core? And we all bring things in from experiences of different incarnations, from our star families, from who we truly are as a powerful starseed being.
Yeah.
But I do want to touch base on when those do come online, though, sometimes they come online even though we haven't done all the work. And I want to talk about that from a 5D, 3D, 4D perspective and how people have misguided and have put out misinformation.
Yeah.
Those got on their gifts but haven't fully walked through the fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's a really important point because that's a common trap is you start to notice the gifts, the psychic powers coming online, and your attachment to those can get you to spiritually bypass even more. It can stop you from delving further into the shadow work and not kind of continuing with that and just getting attached to that side of things. Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly like what the Buddhists say, even in meditation, it's whatever sensation comes up for you. I'm talking about Vipassana here, but whatever sensation comes up, it's important to stay neutral because there are pleasant sensations that come up, beautiful tingling sensations, and there's pain that comes up. And it doesn't matter if it's pleasant, like pleasure or pain. What's important is that we stay equanimous. So we stay in a space of non-judgment because the more you crave something, the more rift and a chasm you're forming between your shadow and your light. And that's dangerous.
Yeah. When somebody is at that point and then they're trying to heal someone or hold space for someone, it's actually more harmful because they're not putting out with the heart. It always comes back to the heart of the one. And when you're in an egoic state with your gifts and not from the heart, it's actually transmuting harmful energy into the other person's field who's trying to also heal their own trauma. It's like a projection of emotional frequency.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's all the layers of mess that gets, played out where the practitioner, therapist, whatever, healer, will start projecting all their own issues that they haven't faced in themselves yet, mirrored in the client, and all sorts of distortions start happening, and it can become a mess. Yeah. So I really love
really harmful. Yeah. To clear that up, let's just discuss the differences between 3D, 4D, 5D as we know them. So 3D is how we have been in this existence for quite some time and how we have for thousands of years. But the simple layman's terms is I have one job, I have one house, I have one single parallel road of myself and this existence where I'm not going off track. I can't believe out of anything that I'm anything but what you see here in this
Yes.
reality.
Very
Yes? Very
materialist.
very materialist. And that I have to work for 16 years in the same place to get my retirement to retire at 65 and I have my house and my kids and I'm good, right? So then there's the 4D where we're doing some of this clearly that we just talked about, right? We're moving through this work. We're practicing good eating habits, good health. We're starting to meditate maybe in different ways. There's meditation. And we're starting to open up. Maybe we are something more. Maybe we have an ability that came in, but now we're just there. And now we're projecting from this ability and this knowledge, but we decide not to go deeper into really fixing into the heart. So we're staying in between like heart mind coherence
Yes.
and
Yes.
materiality. So, but we're really still working from the
Yes.
ego,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where 5D is all
Yeah.
heart. So you go deeper, deeper, deeper into your emotional sovereignty. When people talk about sovereignty, they're like, oh, I'm in my sovereignty. I'm calling the shots. I'm doing my thing. That is not what we're talking about for 5D. 5D is emotional
Yeah. And you
sovereignty.
can't fake
Where
that. You
don't
can't.
have,
You can't flag
oh,
that.
you can't. You
Yeah,
can't.
because what you're feeling, the frequency you're in, gets reflected back to you immediately. So you can't.
Yeah, yeah, immediately. Yeah. I think that it's important to note that the entire process of getting to 5D, it's not a
Yeah.
place, it's a
Yes.
frequency. It's not like I'm crossing the street and now I'm in
Yeah.
5D.
Yeah.
See ya.
Probably noticed you more than
I wish I was that
easy.
easy. Yeah. My last 40 years of my life would have been so hard. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But that's also why we came here to this planet is to grow our soul. And the only way we grow our soul is to move through these emotions at such a steep level to clear these
Yeah.
traumas.
Yeah, we really did sign up for this because it's such a beautiful opportunity. It just wouldn't be quite as fun. And I don't want to sound callous, but it wouldn't be quite as fun if you couldn't feel the rawness of the emotions. I mean, there are realms where we're just in peace, forever. But no, we just be there, feel the tension, feel the parole.
Sounds kind of boring. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think we've just embraced it. And we're so lucky to be living in a time where you're having this podcast and this information gets to be, and we won't be, we won't be killed for being witches anymore. We have this beautiful opportunity to experience different ways of healing, really resonate. So we get to heal lifetimes of stuff that we've been carrying for lifetimes. Really feel we're in such a special time.
We really are. Everything is colliding and separating, but also remembering all at the same time. So where the separating aspect, the Earth's vibrational frequencies are starting to separate from us being here as separated souls, but we are not separated. And that's where we get back to the multidimensional piece of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think we're in a really interesting time where we get the opportunity to do so much clearing, and we wouldn't have the access to that level of knowledge about ourselves if we weren't destined to do all this clearing. So it really is a gift and an opportunity to do that. It means that we're ready as a collective, as an individual, and as being part of Gaia, as being part of this earth consciousness is also raising her frequency. It's amazing, I think. Yeah.
It's raising Gaia's frequency, but it's also creating Arya's frequency, which is the new Earth that's being created. And so, which eventually will be, we're moving slowly there through the 5D experience and frequency. And then slowly everyone will materialize. Who wants to go? Some don't want to go. Souls, because they still need that experience. But when that time comes, then the split actually occurs where you have two parallel planets. And this is Gaia, is still here. And this is Arya, who is now operating strictly from 5, 6, 7D. And it's beautiful. But let's just talk about a little bit about what that looks like, because I think too, there's misconceptions that it's all bliss.
Yeah.
No, it's still emotional. It's still work. You still have to go through these emotions. But the difference is you'll know how to transform them. You'll know how to alchemize them so that you can still live peacefully. You won't hold on to them from an egoic perspective. They won't harm your body because you'll know how to alchemize that. You stop present, be aware, emotion. You'll still cry. You can still scream, but you move it into something beautiful. You're not harboring it in your body for years and lifetimes.
Beautiful. I guess having a different perspective on it, right? And understanding really the gifts in all that happens to us in our life. And trusting more, trusting the timing of things, trusting the natural unfolding of things. Just leaning with it, basically.
I think that's good to point out, and you hit the nail on the head this time. That's what everyone has a problem with, is trust, because we've been so tied into this separation feeling here. These different coordinates. When we lost the trust along the way. We didn't know that we're more than what we are because we were stuck in separation. And now we have to move through the trust. And we've also, through abandonment issues, through abuse issues, that trust just gets deeper and deeper in the ground. So the trust, for my own experience, I don't know about you, Mariko, but for my own experience, trust is a really hard one for me to let go of.
And it can also be very, very difficult when you have a certain vision or expectations of what you want. And, I deal with this a lot in clients, and I have a course where I teach people to create consciously, and that the cornerstone of that is trusting in yourself, trusting in the natural unfolding things. I use that phrase because it came in once when I was working with someone, and I just love the syntax. I love, it's such a beautiful phrase, trust in the natural unfolding of things. And I think it's so important. For example, right now from the 3D perspective, I'm manifesting something that is so huge and seemingly impossible, but I just have full 100% trust and faith. And I know if it's meant to be, it will be. And the how is not my business, and nor is the timing. When you can live in trust, it's a constant process. It's a choice that you have to make. It's like when you're in a plant medicine journey, when you're sort of taken out of the ego, thrown out of the ego almost. It's not just in the start of the session that you say, okay, I'm not going to resist this because I know that if I resist it, this will turn into a bad trip. So it's not just, exactly. So it's not a single moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to trust, I'm going to surrender. It's a moment to moment choice, right? Every moment is a new choice point. Trust or fear, trust or fear, trust or fear. So it's constantly reminding ourselves to trust. And when that happens, the beautiful synchronicities start coming. And it's choosing a lightness, or getting more access to the lightness where, therefore, you notice signs more. Signs can drop through from your spirit team, your higher self. It just, more beauty comes through because of it.
It's really us who plants those seeds of synchronicities to tell us that we, in the timeline we're choosing to jump on, we are on the right path for that timeline.
Exactly.
When people see synchronicities, it's important to be aware of that and be aware in that moment.
Absolutely.
Right? What did I just choose to do? Where did I just choose to go? And then I just saw a synchronicity, like numbers. Like, I love numbers. Guys love numbers. I love numbers. So I always see multiple numbers like, oh, yay. Oh, right. But synchronicities are huge. Let's talk about a little bit the synchronicities, how we find them, why they're there, timelines, parallels, all this stuff, because that also plays into that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just want to backtrack a second, and I just want to reiterate something. So the thing about the density and the lightness, the more that we heal and clear, the more that we get rid of the stagnant energy in our field that gives us more access to communication with our soul, our higher self, whatever you want to call it. And some of that communication is in the form of synchronicities and patterns and intuition, downloads, dreams that are, more obvious. There's various forms in which those take place. It's so interesting because, just as an aside, if I am doing a between lives regression for somebody, they cannot even enter if they have severe unresolved trauma from this life or from previous. So we always have to do a preparation session where I identify the key unresolved things, and we have to go there and clear the energy. Otherwise, they won't be able to access those realms, even in our regression. So, again, it's about, like you said, synchronicities are messages from the soul. So they really come through when we need them and when we're ready to perceive them. I remember,
That's correct.
and I think if we ignore the subtle signs that are coming through, the signs tend to get louder, right? I mean, I think people can resonate with this, but when you're on a path that's not aligned for you, then, first you hear the rumblings and the whispers, and then you're shaken up to say, no, this relationship's not good for you. This job is not what you're supposed to do. This, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to do this, right? So, and don't listen to those subtle messages, then I do believe that it manifests as disease in the body, physically.
It does.
Yeah, but sorry, we went a bit off piece there in relation to your question, but the multidimensionally, the timelines. I think what's so fascinating to me as a regression therapist is to notice those patterns coming through in all different timelines. And so when we can get to the core issue that needs to be resolved, and let's say it originates in one past life, and we clear that and do the healing work related to that, then in all timelines, it ripples out. You'll experience a shift in your current timeline, in your current life. Or this also relates to when there is conflict with somebody in your life. Let's say the source of that conflict or that energetic block stems from a past life. When we go there and we make peace and resolve that conflict, then magically that person will show up again in your current life, or you'll hear from them after 5 years of no contact. Again, it's just all a mirror of what we see in the external, is all just a mirror of the work that we're doing within and within our own energy field.
That's correct. And I think you hit it on the head, is the mirror. Everything is a mirror. We even had the AI discussion on an earlier podcast before, and we're talking about how AI is a mirror. Everything is a mirror. What is the mirror for? It's to go inside yourself.
Yes.
It's showing you and telling you what you need to do in order to get yourself back to yourself, back to your heart, back to remembering who you are as a beautiful being, not just a human being, but on a soul level, and that you are so powerful and so much more, and that we're all superhuman. And I echo that a lot in all my episodes, because I don't know that it's getting through. We're all very superhuman. We have so many things. And the more that you do, and it's not just about ascension, but you can connect to your higher self, but higher than that, you can connect into your higher self, where your higher self comes into you, fully integrated. And you're no longer working at the what ifs, you're working at the now.
Yeah, beautiful. So, okay, so Angela, if someone were to ask you, okay, how do I do that? What would you say?
Well, that's interesting, because I already walked into my higher self. And that's probably what you're asking me. It was years of going inward. And I think that I've always been doing that, but since 2022, I really started diving inward. And that is why Love of One was created. This podcast is because in season 1, it was all the practitioners, most all of them, that had partaken in that process. And I didn't just see them once or twice. I saw them a handful of times, some of them, a dozen times, on top of my own just meditation and walks and being in nature and being in silence and in solitude and float back and keeping active and eating right. Yes, is part of it, but it's really going deep and mirroring and seeing all the mirrors around me and understanding, oh my gosh, this hurts so bad. And it was hard, and it was a challenge, and it was painful. And I cried a lot. And I screamed, primal screams, punched pillows, disappeared for a while, but it's all worth it.
Yeah, I think that's the key piece. It's all worth it. Because, someone could be hearing this going, oh my goodness, this is
fun. But it's also my path, because I chose my being is very old, very ancient, and I had a lot to clear. And for me on my path, just to clear it up, I wasn't just clearing mine, I was also clearing very collective
Yeah.
wounds. So my path is different than your
Yeah.
path. Your path looks different than
Yeah.
mine, and maybe not, it's just different. And then I have a friend who's going through their own path, and it's not as excruciating,
Yeah.
but so we're all on a different path because that's what we chose.
Yes. So I think it's important to note that we have the capacity because it's what we chose.
Yes. Yes. And if I can do it and you can do it, anyone can do
Yeah.
it. It's how I feel too.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
leads back to, with what you said, your process, it leads back to that fundamental point of going in and inquiring, staying curious about yourself,
Yeah.
right? I would say even really chase what's uncomfortable, chase the discomfort, because that's really the key.
I love that. And we know what we're chasing? We're chasing love.
Mhm. Yeah, we're chasing love, and it's being called by the part that doesn't have the love. So it's like going there towards it to be able to give it the love that it needs to transmute.
The love of one.
Exactly, exactly. And spiritual communities always say, with love and light, but I really love saying through the shadow to the light on the end of my emails.
Because love and light are the same.
Yeah. It's easy to see the love and light where there's love and light, but where the shadow is what needs that love the most. It's where the transmutation needs to happen. So really seeking that out and going forth, with that mission to transform it into love through non-judgment, through acceptance. It's such a profound thing. It's so simple and so deep and so complex, and also very simple too.
It's self-love, because
Yes.
when you start looking inward, then everything becomes a different perspective. You're looking through different
Yes.
lenses, and then you're not judging yourself. And whenever you don't, because we're talking about the mirror,
Yeah.
right? So if I go inward and then all of a sudden I don't judge myself anymore, I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm not gossiping anymore
Yeah.
because I don't have anything that I need to gossip about for myself.
Exactly.
Just being comfortable in myself. I'm not allowing the ego goes away because we're loving ourselves to the point where we're not thinking negative thoughts about ourselves anymore, because we love who we are. So then our ego says, if he fights till the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when it goes quiet,
That's it. I love that. That's what it does. It goes quiet. It's
and then it's touching my heart center, because then you feel this huge, a mass amount of like your heart is singing the love song. When you yourself, then everything around you, because it's a frequency, and we're mirroring a frequency. So when we love ourselves and we're heating that frequency of love, then we're getting that same frequency of love.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And to counterbalance what you've just said, so I guess another way in to do the shadow work is to notice when you make a judgment about somebody else. I mean, it can be also noticing when you make a judgment about yourself, but inevitably, when you make a judgment about someone else, then there's some unhealed wound within yourself. Yeah, exactly. And so that's that's why the only way to have world peace is to do that shadow work and to begin that process of truly loving yourself no matter what, exactly as you are, exactly as you're not. And that's when, everyone else, like you said, it just becomes a reflection. There's less judgment towards others. There's just acceptance and compassion, because you understand that anyone who's acting in any certain way, even if it's not a way that you would want to be acting yourself, you get it because you've been there yourself. At some point, you were that person.
And that's why they say that the new human species is love, not head. That's because you have to get there yourself. And everyone's slowly getting to that point. And that's how we ascend. That's how we get to 5D. It's not some trickster card or sitting with a practitioner for an hour saying, I'm going to get you there on the fast track. There's no fast track. It's literally going in and finding that love. Then when you're working from heart coherence instead of brain, that's secondary, and you're moving from the heart. And that's what 5D really is about. That's what New Earth is about. That's what the new human species is about. It's not some new hybrids coming in. I mean, yes, but they're all centered around the heart of love, because those children have already walked the path of going in.
Yeah.
And that's why they're
Beautiful.
coming.
Yeah. And I'd like to say too that we're all on this journey and there's no race. You got to respect your timing for things. There's no pressure to get place of healing, a certain level of healing.
Yeah, I love that. It's good to remember that we're all on our own time and nobody's late. Everybody's on time. Everyone's on time and everyone's loved and it's okay. We will all on our own time.
And some souls have had few incarnations. Some souls have had more, and some souls are young, and some there's no comparison. We are each our own individuals on our own individual journey, and everything's okay.
We're all okay, and we're all beautiful. Mariko, I could literally talk to you forever. I think we have a couple of and perhaps we come back on again soon. How can people get a hold of you to come and experience your beautiful container that you hold in your space?
Well, my website is Mindsetting, all in one word, Mindsetting, so mindsetting.co.uk. I have a YouTube channel where I upload a video a week, and they're very practical videos. So I do guided EFT tapping videos to help people clear an emotional wound or block. So, they're all designed to get you to a neutral state of lightness and calm through processing and feeling the uncomfortable feelings. So if you'd like to give those a go, please find me on there. And I'm also on Instagram with the same handle, Mindsetting by Mariko. So YouTube handle is Mindsetting by Mariko. I want to say thank you, Angela, for having me on. And also thank you so much for all the work that you do for the collective. And also for sharing these messages that are so beautiful and informative. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm so blessed to have you on today to have these amazing discussions because I know that you've also done your work. So I want to thank you for that as well. And keep walking in grace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All of her information will also be at the end of this podcast, as well as the description of this episode. Thank you for tuning in to this soul-expanding conversation with Mariko and I. If this episode resonates, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone walking their own path of remembrance. You can learn more about Mariko at mindsetting.co.uk and connect with the Love of One community at loveofone.com. Until next time, keep going inward and remember, you are the medicine.